Right. Today's topic, how to connect with the audience. I don't think we can talk about how to connect with the audience without talking about storytelling. So whatever we are going to talk about today has everything to do about storytelling, something that is very interesting and something that is pretty integral when it comes to international speech contest and especially prepared speeches in Toastmasters. So how to connect, how to make that emotional connection with the audience. There will be two things I will be talking about today. One, about how to build that character, and two, how to help the audience connect with the character. So everything has to do with character building. That is what it is, because we have only 15 to 20 minutes. So I think talking about two things will be better for you to digest whatever I'm going to say today. So let's talk about the first part of my presentation, helping the audience to get to know the character. Now, if you in tonight's presentation, I will be talking about two speeches and one movie, right? And in all my examples, that's what I'll be citing: the two speeches and the one movie. And the two speeches, one you know already. I'm sure that you might have watched this over and over again. It's Dhananjay Hettiarachchi's I See Something in You, but I don't know what it is. That's the first speech. And the second speech, I'm sure most of you have listened to this speech as well. Aaron Beverly's semi-final speech, The Greatest Stories Ever Told. If you haven't watched it, you should watch it. It's one of the best speeches ever given, and the greatest examples of storytelling can be derived from that speech. And the movie that I'll be talking about today is Finding Nemo. I hope you have watched that, Finding Nemo. It's an animated movie, but once again, brilliant. So let's talk about the first topic of the two topics that I'll be addressing today. The two topics are how to get to know the character, the first one, and the second one is how to help the audience emotionally connect with the character, because I believe you need both these, and both these are intertwined when it comes to helping the audience emotionally connect with the character. So for the first part of the presentation, how to help the audience get to know the character, is divided once again into two parts, right? So the first part of how to help the audience get to know the character is describing the physical features of the character, and two, describing the internal features of the character. In other words, describing the external features and describing the internal features. External features are what we mean by the outside of the character, and internal features is the inside, the feelings and the emotions. Now, let's go to Dhananjay Hettiarachchi's speech. I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. And let's see if he has done this, right? And that is what we are looking at. It's not about what I do. It's about what these great speakers do to help the audience connect with the, how these great speakers connect with the audience emotionally. So how does Dhananjay Hettiarachchi does that? By building this character. Now, if you look at Dhananjay Hettiarachchi's speech, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. There are a few characters. You find his dad in the beginning, and also his mom, and then you find his boss, and then you find this person who comes and tells him, I see something in you at the Toastmasters club, and finally his wife. So let's look at his mother, how he helps the audience get to know his mother. Now, if you have listened to his speech in the beginning, he talks about his mother coming and holding the bars in the prison. I hope you remember this part. And then she starts crying. Now, what Dhananjay Hettiarachchi does there is, he does not describe the external features of the mother, but he describes the internal features. Now, he describes how the mother is going through pain at that moment. That is the internal feature, right? So the emotions, the feelings of the character. Some of them use both the external and internal features, but at this point, Dhananjay uses the internal features and helps the audience connect with the mother by describing the pain that she's feeling at the moment. And then he describes the father and helps the audience get to know his father as well. How does he do that? Once again, he does not describe the external features, but he describes the internal features. How many of you have a cool dad? He says, right? Put them all together, you get my dad, right? So the internal feature, his father is cool. That is the internal feature. When you imagine Dhananjay's father, he's a cool father. And when it comes to his boss, I don't know whether you remember this part. He describes him as he looked like a teddy bear. He looked like a teddy bear. Now he's describing the external feature of the character. So in the beginning, he describes all these, he describes either the internal feature or the external feature. And now we are able to get to know the character, right? And this is the first part of, building the emotional connection, helping the audience connect with your speech. And now we saw how Dhananjay Hettiarachchi did that. Let's look at how Aaron Beverly does that as well. So if you look at Aaron Beverly's speech, and that is the greatest stories ever told. In his first story, he's got these characters: his mother, his aunt, and his uncle. And he describes, in Aaron Beverly's speech, he chooses to describe the external features of the character. And that is tiny mother, tiny uncle, and tiny aunt. If you remember his speech, that's how he describes that, right? 8, 7, and 5 years old. Now, we are able to imagine, we are able to get to know the characters through that, when he describes the external features, right? So this is how Aaron Beverly does it. Describing the he does not describe the internal feature as well, but he describes the external feature. But if you listen to his speech, you get to know the internal features of the character as well. I mean, the feelings, the emotions of the character. Like, for example, you see the mother as the leader of the gang. She's the one who's commanding, and the aunt and the uncle are the one who blindly follow the mother. Right, so that's what he means by when they roll the tire in the beginning down the staircase, and then they roll something else, and finally they roll a box with the uncle inside, and the uncle goes, yes, okay, before he does that, but he's the one who's going through the pain. So you see the mother as the commanding figure in his speech. And then you see Aaron Beverly and the aunt as the one who follow the mother. That's the internal feature, right, of the characters. And finally, Finding Nemo, the movie. How does the director describe the internal and external features of the character? Once again, external features are pretty clear. You see the fish, the father who is called Marlin. That's the external feature. You see the outside features of the character, and the internal features are described through the story. Now, Marlin, the father, is an extremely caring dad, and the son is disobedient. He's playful. He wants to explore, and that is how he introduces his characters. So we see how these great speeches and great movies help the audience connect or get to know the character initially before helping the audience connect with the character, right? So any great speech, if you look at it, especially the World Championship speeches, they do this brilliantly. Before they help the audience emotionally connect with the character, they build the character to the extent that the audience can visually see them on stage. Just like Dhananjay Hettiarachchi did, Aaron Beverly did, and also in the great movies you see that as well. because this is all part of storytelling. So that was the first part, right? Getting to know helping the audience get to know the character by describing the internal and external features. And the second part is where you help the audience connect with your story, with the character. And this is the most important part. And you can't get to this without completing the first part. And how do you do this? Now, once again, this is divided into two parts as well. One, you call the situational experience, and two, the emotional experience. Once again, if you go to these great speeches, you will see that the great speakers have created the situational experience on the one hand, and also they create this emotional experience on the other. Let's go to Dhananjay's speech and see how he does this, right? How he creates these situational experiences and the emotional experiences. So if you look at the first part of his story, where his mother is coming in, the situation is where Dhananjay is inside the cell, inside the prison, his jail, and his mother comes in. Now, the situational experience is not something that all of us need to be able to relate to, right? That is not necessary, because if you look at it, most of us have not been in the prison, right? That's not something that we can relate to. But Dhananjay that's the story that Dhananjay chooses to tell. And in Aaron Beverly's story, the situational experience is where the uncle is rolled down the stairs. Now, that is also something that most of us have not experienced. But once again, that is what Aaron Beverly chooses to say. And in Finding Nemo, the situational experience is where, for example, Nemo gets lost. And Marlin, the father, is going in search of his son. Now, once again, this situational experience is not something necessarily that all of us can relate to. And this is very important to note. The situational experience that you're creating in your speech is something that the audience necessarily, the situational experience does not have to be something the audience should be able to relate to, right? But what is important is to make your emotional experience relatable. That is where the audience will make the connection. So if you go to Dhananjay Hettiarachchi's speech, in his first story, although he is in prison, the emotion that he's bringing out through his mother is once again pain on his mother's part and also on Dhananjay's part. And that is where we connect with the mother and Dhananjay. Oh my God, she's sad that her son, that she has to see her son in this situation. That is a terrible situation that we can relate to. And the son inside the prison, and we can relate to the son as well. To see his mother coming into the police station for the first time and to see him inside prison is once again a very painful experience. We can relate to that. And this is where he helps us build that emotional connection with the character. And this is what is important because this is where all of us have this common experience of either pain or, once again, in his dad's situation where he's talking about the cool dad, humor. We can connect to that as an audience. Aaron Beverly, what does he do? The situational experience, we saw a situational experience where his uncle is being rolled down the stairs inside a box. But the emotional experience is something that is common. Terror, right? Aaron Beverly himself says that we are connected with him in that, in that moment of terror and anticipating what's going to, terrified about what's going to happen. And that's the emotional experience that Aaron Beverly creates through that situation. Terror and fear. He's a master of storytelling. And this is where we connect with the characters. Oh my God, what's going to happen next? Are they really going to roll the uncle, the tiny uncle down the stairs, the 5-year-old tiny uncle down the stairs? Oh my God. This is where we're connecting with the character. And in the second story, we never spoke about the second story. Aaron Beverly's second story is about he's in the car and his mother is shouting out a bad word to someone who cuts across on the road. But once again, the experience, the emotional experience that he's trying to, that is the situational experience, but the emotional experience he creates on the table, where his sister is trying to induce his temper, and he wants to shout out this bad word. Once again, the experience of fear and anticipation. Oh my God, is he really going to shout out this bad word? Is the emotion that he's creating. And this is where we connect with the characters. And finally, let's look at Finding Nemo, how the director creates this emotional experience. We saw the situational experience where Nemo is getting lost and Marlin is going in search of Nemo. But what is the emotional experience? Now, we connect emotionally with the father who has lost his son. And the emotion is one of sadness and hope. And we root for that character. We root for the father and we say, we want Marlin to find his son. And that is where we are, that is where the director is helping us connect with these characters emotionally. And this is where we stay connected with the speech, wondering what's going to happen next. And if you go and analyze all the great speeches in the International Speech Contest, you will find them following these methods. First, they help the audience get to know the character by describing either the internal or external feature of the character. And then they help us build that emotional connection with the character by creating this situational experience and the emotional experience. And if we can do that in our speeches, I'm sure that we'll be able to help the audience connect with our stories emotionally as well. So with that, I close my presentation. I don't know whether you open the floor for question and answers. Thank you.